How we doing, everybody? I'm Ron Swanson. Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. We're here with Laura Van Tyne, and we're going to be delving into the world of demon hunting, the powers around the world, individuals who are often referred to as demonic, reptilian, nasty. We're going to be delving into the realities of that. And before we do, Laura, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being here. I used to be a middle school teacher. I taught math and Spanish.
Okay.
And long story short, these 20 years ago, these dark beings, these demonics started rolling through my house. I didn't know why. I wasn't dabbling anything. I've never, to this day, honestly, I've never touched a tarot card because you have to have the wisdom and intelligence behind it. And I didn't know anything back then.
Okay.
And along that way, I had this defining moment where our little girl was being tortured by these beings and entities, and she's about 6 years old. I didn't know what reptilians were 20 years ago. They didn't exist. The disclosure movement didn't exist. The knowledge and the internet didn't exist like it exists today. And I was fighting these battles. I had to quit teaching to figure out literally how to save my family's soul. And in that process, we are being hit with reptilians, hatmen, shadow men, lower realm entities, grays, the whole gamut of things. And I couldn't explain why. And then one night, our little girl is about 6 years old. She comes racing into our bedroom and says, Mommy, the shadow men are in my room, and they said they're going to steal my soul to break you. 6-year-olds don't talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had a big problem. And I held her in my arms, and I did everything I could to not give her my fears. But I couldn't lie to her either and say it was going to be okay, because I didn't know what was going on. I stopped teaching and I started studying. I started trying to figure things out. And it took about 10 years to get out of this paranormal hell. It was like we're inside this Hollywood flick and the credits never rolled. The ending never came.
Right.
And in that process, I learned a lot. Most of what I learned was what did not work. Sage is bunk, all of these things. So in this process, I finally get to the other side of it, and I realize that I can't go back to teaching in the public school because I'm not the only one having these issues. These issues with these dark beings, so many of us are inflicted by this unseen energetic world that is here to siphon our soul energy, to harness our souls, remove our soul sovereignty, our free will. It's not going away. And I realized in hindsight, that was my training ground to do what I do today.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear about a 6-year-old being tormented like that, and you having to deal with that level of darkness, I mean, how did you process that? What was the denial phase like throughout this? Because
she was always very honest, so I knew she wasn't lying about things. She
No,
would
of course.
tell me, she would tell me things that I knew nobody else knew about me, like what my father called me as a nickname kind of thing. No one else knew that. So I knew she was getting some kind of information, and it was my job to really honestly protect her. For years, it was so bad, these terror attacks, that it's so much easier to deal with some stuff that you can see in the 3D world, but how do you deal with the unseen world? So these terror attacks would go on daily and nightly, and I had to figure it out. I started cataloging and categorizing all of these different beings and entities, like what they did, how they worked, how they operated. I finally learned how to, I'm going to say, capture them.
Okay.
And in this process, I start quizzing the heck out of them because I want answers. But I also know there's 2 lies and a truth, or 2 truths and a lie with these guys. And so I started creating basically these spreadsheets to figure this out. And it always ebbs and flows and changes too. So nothing is ever static.
Yeah. And when you started categorizing, I mean, when we see the movies, right, it's very Hollywood, it's very, it's in your face, right?
Yeah.
What are the realities of encountering these entities, these beings, and dealing with them? I mean, what was your process like for all this?
In the beginning, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm calling every psychic, every shaman, every religious clergy looking for answers, and nobody had the answers for me. I had to figure this out on my own, and that was the really tough part about it. So the realities were my husband and I could never go out on a date. We could never do anything without the kids because God forbid I leave a babysitter and plates go flying off the table or worse.
Okay.
So these were our daily realities. And these beings and entities would come in, and I would wake up. I would have bite marks on me. I would have weird bruises. I would be literally taken out of my sleep state into these awful places. And I would have to struggle to get myself back into reality, back into 3D. I mean, it was a nightmare of epic proportions. And yes, I believe in Jesus. Yes, I believe in the Bible, but we also have to understand that that was written couple thousand years ago, and things have changed. And we
Right.
have to understand that the dark side evolves also.
Okay. And so when you say the dark side evolves also in the Bible, like the Bible was written uh however long ago, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that the darkness is gaining more power, or is it that the entities themselves are evolving? Like how would you
The,
define their
the
progression?
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. The entities also evolve. Their games and tactics change. This is a spiritual war. It's about the pursuit of the human soul. When these dark beings left the light of God, they're like, oh, snap, we need an energy source. We no longer have a light source, an energy source afforded to us. And they start looking around at all these other planets. We're not the only planet. And they say, wait a minute, look at this planet, planet Earth, that has a lot of light beings
Yep.
here. We can use their energies and siphon this off. It's often called loosh. I call it soul food.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. So do you think this is spiritual, otherworldly, interdimensional? How would you capsulate the
All of the
topic?
above.
Right?
Yeah, it is
It's
all of the above. This is
yeah.
a spiritual war. When I call them the Luciferic forces, and this could be grays, it could be archons, it could be reptilians, it could be anything, right? The Luciferic forces, when they left the light of God, they look at planet Earth now as being a step down transformer of energy for them. And so we've got the 3D, which is our reality here, right? Physicality, touch, taste, smell, sense. These are where we have our earthly experiences to learn what we need to learn on our soul's path. What we don't understand is that many of our soul's paths have been hijacked. So when we leave these bodies, the energy that animates our bodies, the soul energy, has to go somewhere, right?
Okay.
Where does that energy go? Every holy text has some type of verbiage about, lo behold, I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Da 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 da. That means get your butt out of there and go home. Go to the higher realms. Don't linger as a ghost energy. We have been programmed to believe through our religious organizations that a bad person should rot in hell, that maybe they didn't cross over because they have unfinished business to do. All of these false truths about a ghost energy. A ghost energy is a soul who's left the body and is stuck between heaven and earth. If they are stuck, it is up to us to help them to cross over, to go get out of the earth plane residence, to raise the vibrational frequency of this planet.
And do you think that the frequencies and the higher level, because there does seem to be a shift going on right now, right? And there does
Yes.
seem to be a great awakening. Do you consider that a response to the influx of darkness that you're saying has come to feed on us effectively? We're all sort of waking up in a panic. Is that sort of
Yeah,
summarized?
I think we're sort of at the 11th hour with this. And I also believe there's enough of us doing this type of work and coming in here, reincarnating here with higher vibrational frequencies and a depth of wisdom and understanding that it is slowly resonating throughout the planet, raising the vibrational frequency of the planet. And I think it's left the dark side having what I would call toddler temper tantrums.
Okay. Okay. And when it comes to the world leaders and it comes to the crazy, I mean, we've got Trump threatening to wipe out a civilization within the next 12 hours,
Yeah.
as he so puts it. I mean, are we seeing the manifestation in front of our eyes right now in the current world affairs?
I do think so. And there's been a lot of talk and theory that, for example, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, all these people have been sent to Gitmo and they've been executed. Yes, they have clones and this and that. Well, here's my question to everybody who says, oh, yay, they've been executed. What happened to that evil soul energy? Where did it go? The reality is that these evil ones can take over another body of influence. How many times have we respected somebody on that global stage and we find out they somehow became corrupted? What happened? It doesn't mean that that soul energy was originally evil. It means something took them over. So what a lot of the work I do is going into the underground and removing those nefarious entities, those nefarious beings, so they cannot come back and reincarnate or take over another body. This is a really big deal. And nobody ever really talks about this.
Well,
How do you
that's
remove evil?
yeah, that's what I wanted to get onto with you is the process behind all of this. And when it comes to the work you've done and individuals you've worked with compared to things like, world leaders, Donald Trump, things like this, and the difficulty and the level of I guess superiority that the evil energy will be, but depending on the person it's latched onto. So if you could take us through your process, or I mean, even to give us some examples of stories and things like that, I'm sure we would love to hear it. And it's fascinating work, Laura. It really is.
Thank you. Absolutely. So I'm going to use Jeffrey Epstein as an example.
Sure.
Okay. So Jeffrey Epstein, we can all agree, is probably one of the evil ones, right? So the dark side can clone them and us. The dark side can do a lot of elements. And when Epstein was caught, put in jail, executed, in jail,
Yep.
a piece of his soul energy has always been guarded by the dark side, and they can regrow that soul energy. So literally when Epstein, quote unquote, died, I thought this is an opportunity to go to and find this aspect of that soul to remove it off the earth plane. And I'm literally remote viewing. So most of what I do is a form of remote viewing. I can remote view in the ethers and in real time, but the ethers is where I usually spend most of my time. And I just sit and I wait. I'm going through over and over and over. And I had a connection to Jeffrey Epstein years before that at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, which is in Hollywood. But I didn't know what I didn't know back then. It was in the early days. And that was my connection to him. I'm at the Getty Museum and I get sick. I can't walk. I go out. I tell my family, I got to go outside. I sit down on this grassy hill. And all of a sudden, I get pushed back down to the ground. And here I am, a grown woman in my 40s, laying on the grass, and I can't move. And everybody's walking around me, it was just so frustrating and awkward. I can't move. I can't speak. I can't get my phone. I can't say help to my husband. And then I start watching all of these children come out of this air vent in different dresses, different epochs of different time. And so what we have to understand about ghost energies is that a ghost energy is a soul who hasn't crossed over. What they died in is what they wear while they're existing as a ghost. So this is just a pro tip for all you out there. If you're going to be a ghost, don't die naked. But in all seriousness, we can tell when somebody's died because they're dressed as a Roman gladiator. They're dressed in, 1800 farm wear, whatever it is.
Sure.
But I'm watching all these and they're in stacks of time. So I'm looking at time like rings of a tree, stacks of time.
Okay.
And I'm seeing these children who look modern, but are dressed in a Genghis Khan outfit, in a Baroque outfit, in all of these different outfits. And I start crossing them over and over and over. And so as I'm doing that, I don't know about the pedophilia in the underground and this and that, because this is almost like 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
with you.
trying to solve my family's problem. That was actually my connection to Jeffrey Epstein, which gave me an Akka cord or a connection to that aspect of the lower astral where I could go and find him.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about part of him being left over, it's really interesting because the terminology changes from individual to individual a lot of the time, right? And
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do is get a clear picture throughout all of this with and removing the religious or the personal experience and looking directly at the overlying facts. And this internal conscious, right? The soul, your spirit, whatever you want to label it as, there is this repeating, downloadable, transferable conscious factor. And of
Mhm.
course, you can go as scientific or as spiritual with this as you want, or as much in between. But it would make sense, right? That if you believe all the MK Ultra survivors and all of this, that there is a way for us to download our conscious and move it from person to person. That 100%, if you're going to get Epstein, you're going to have your brain downloaded. Come on, right? Look at the sciences. Look at the
Yes, you're
sciences this guy was
absolutely
involved
right.
in. I
You're
mean, the
absolutely
sciences he
right with
was
that.
involved with, Laura. He was talking about time travel, cloning. Look at freaking the Pete guy that's just, what was the name of the Pete guy? Something Pete, somebody in the side chat was just talking about him.
Oh, I
This,
don't know.
this Florida Pete guy that looks exactly like Epstein that's popped up. And
Yeah,
if I was Epstein, right, and I knew how much work I had to get done, I'd have 8 other Epsteins and I'd pick one to be the main Epstein that
right.
wasn't me, right?
Yes, yes,
So that
absolutely.
either if I don't get my brain downloaded or I don't get Epstein, I can just go and be freaking Palm Bay Pete or whatever the hell the guy's name is. It looks like Epstein now. Palm Beach Pete. Thank you. And Epstein owned property in Palm. Like it's bonkers. But when it comes to this transferable part of the consciousness, I think that is 100% on the ball. And again, use whatever words you want. But there
Yeah,
is this obsession with elites and this when we say mind control, it's not as we think about like the puppet strings, it is this shifting of the mind and creating these alternates in people, and it's insane. And it's a reality, it is a reality. And when you were picking up on residual energies and things like this and you were going to start tapping into them, you're about to start getting into that. If you could continue on with that, that would be great, Laura. Thank you.
tapping into what I do and how I do it.
Well, yeah, you were saying that you were able to go into lower ethers and things like this, and
Well, we're
how,
ethers. And
yeah,
by the way, I have a lot of protections afforded to me when I do this. This is dangerous work. It's
yeah,
almost killed me on a few occasions.
yeah,
Um, Seriously, I'm not kidding. So I have a huge spiritual team, and here's the key for everybody out there. When you are working with any spirit guides, any angels, any beings, vet them. Do not trust that you're talking to Archangel Michael or Metatron or whomever. Don't trust that. These beings are shapeshifters. They're master shapeshifters. So one of the most basic ways, I'm going to explain this as I continue, to vet whom or what you're working with, you can do a few things. One, you can visualize yourself pouring salt on them. Salt cleanses on all dimensions. You can pour frankincense oil on them. It's a visualization technique. I've got Archangel Michael right here. I'm going to visualize myself pouring a rain of frankincense oil on him. If he shapeshifts, pixelates, or disappears, you've got a false one. That's a big deal. If you get a false entity, it's not that you weren't worthy, it's you dodged a bullet because they want to gain access to us. If I've got a false Archangel Michael and I keep working with false Archangel Michael, who is in reality a reptilian, I'm now inviting reptilians into my home. So always vet to whom or what you think you're working with all the time.
yeah. I think a lot of people look past that. I think a lot of people they struggle with finding out the rules and regulations for a lot of their journey. And I think Danny Henderson, a friend of ours, put it quite bluntly. And she said, if your guides are failing, you tell them to off and get new ones.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what I'm saying? You can fire all your guides. Okay.
Yeah.
You can fire and hire at will. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel, again, it's this deep rooted seat of disbelief that people have, and the lack of belief within themselves as well, that almost creates this we're not worthy of the situation they feel they're in with guides. And the concept of firing somebody to most people is a cringe moment, and let alone something that they can barely understand. And I imagine you've had moments, I mean, where you've had false prophets,
Oh, yeah.
or false guides put themselves in front of you. I mean, what was your first encounter with that like? And what was it like, sort of
It was like
ironing
the
out
biggest
the
aha
creases?
moment of my life.
Right.
I am in my living room again. I'm not sleeping anymore. If I get 2 consecutive hours of sleep, that's a good thing, because if I fall asleep, some harm may come to my family. I mean, that's where I was with it.
Okay.
And I remember being in my living room one night, and I can see through, we had a fireplace on the wall, but on the left side of the fireplace was this portal that kept opening up, and these beings, these demonics, kept coming in. And I'm trying to fight them with as much battle force as I could, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Jesus comes in. I'm like, oh my God, thank God Jesus is here. I mean, like, I don't know what else to do. And I've been calling on Jesus. I've been calling on all the big guns that I could think of. Jesus shows up. And Jesus's voice was very electronic-y sounding. I'm like, well, that's weird, but okay. And then he starts telling me that I will burn in hell forever and all of these awful things about me. And I'm like, wait, what? And as I did this, I looked at him at slightly different angle, and I could see the pixelations in him. And I thought, wait a minute, that's not really Jesus. That was my first experience and concept with a shapeshifter. It was trying to tear me down under the guise of not being worthy.
Yeah. The Jesus was spoken about quite a lot with MK Ultra Survivor, about how they would bring in idols to trick the kids and then have abuse done to the kids, and it destroys connections between deities and gods and things like this. I
Yeah.
imagine that's what they were trying to do with you, right? They were trying to get you to
Oh,
turn
yeah.
away from all of that, right?
They were
How?
trying to get me to compromise myself.
Mhm.
If I would have accepted that Jesus as, quote unquote, my savior, who did I allow really truly to accept into my life, right?
Right.
Um, somebody made a comment about channeling is dangerous. Absolutely. A light being does not need to come into my body to give information. So channeling, if it's outside of myself, talking with something, yes, but that person was absolutely right. So be careful. If you're channeling something, vet whom or what you're talking to. And also if they are inside your body or outside of the body having that conversation. So I want to thank that person for that comment. It just kind of flew by and I just saw it for a
Yeah,
moment.
we've got a very well enlightened community here.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
good.
I love this, by the way.
Yeah.
You talked about also a moment ago, you mentioned about guilt, grief,
Well, yeah,
idols,
it was belief, and how
belief.
people tend to, they'll look for anything. They'll look for a four-leaf clover
Yeah.
for luck and power over believing in themselves. And that, there's this incredible amount of knowledge that is lost within us, that if we just kind of go rooting around in our own self-being, we can discover some amazing things.
And
Oh,
don't hand your power over to others or other institutions on a silver platter. We all have it within ourselves, but it's really hard to do the work on ourselves, right? It's hard to clean up our own junk. It's much easier to have, a judgment or anything else like that. So we don't have to deal with ourselves, or hiring a psychic to tell me, if my boyfriend loves me or whatever, right? It's really deeper than that. And we're talking about this belief structure. When you walk into, and I'm going to pick on this institution a little bit. I do believe there's value in churches. I believe that churches offer community, they offer guidances and those elements. But we have to remember who runs these churches and all of these institutions, from the schools to corporations, et cetera, who really runs them.
Yeah.
And there's infiltrations everywhere. But every time you walk into a Catholic church and you see the tortured cross, it brings in fear, guilt, shame, and blame, right? It lowers our vibrational frequency. When we think of an ascended master, and there's many out there, there's more than Jesus also. But when we think of an ascended master as somebody of light and holding their arms up in those early Aramaic days, and we replace that tortured cross with an ascended master of position, strength, power, saying you have it within yourself, how does that shift the world's energy? How does that remove the demonics?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I don't know if you've paid much attention to what's the Vatican's new main hall and the statues that are at the back of this. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is
not. I got to be honest. I kind of like stay in my own lane, and I don't look for information outside of myself. But please share.
Well, buckle up, because this is wild. So give me 2 minutes. I will find these. If you could just continue talking. The specifics of what I want to find for you.
So we have all of these beings that run rampant through every institution on our planet. It doesn't mean the institution is negative. It means there was a chink in their armor and something got in. There is no such thing as a pure family line, not my line, not anybody's family line out there. There are entities and such that keep going through them. And it's our job to say when something doesn't sound right to us, when there is something out there that's like, you know what, that's not right, trust your intuition. Our intuition is our most profound ability we have. And many of us have had our intuition knocked out of us. Why? Because the dark side doesn't want our intuitive abilities on fire. So when we can start to trust ourselves again, this is where we really have and gain the power. It's, our superpower is the intuition. It's not seeing dead people. Period.
Yeah. I mean, but I think a lot of people forget as well. There's so much more than just ghosts, right?
Yeah.
Like there's moments in time that replay that have very little to do with a living anything. It's just repeating moments in time, and then you've got things that have never lived that exist in places and planes that we can never fathom. But I think a lot of people they don't realize when things are weird or happening, there's a lot more that can be going on than just your gran coming back to say hello. Now, I want to show you the picture. I want to show you a picture of the new auditorium in the Vatican, right? What do you see when I show you this image, Laura?
Oh, I see a reptilian. I'm seeing inside the skull of a reptilian.
Right. So you've got the big eyes and the teeth, right?
Yep.
That little dot, right here, that there is the Pope, right? So if we zoom in on this, this is the statue that sits behind the Pope on the Vatican. Right now, I'm going to make it a little clearer for you to see here.
Wow.
Because
I've not seen this.
I'm not being funny, but what the hell is all of this? This is some harrowing hellfire madness.
Yes,
now,
it is. It's designed to keep people in check.
Well, this is meant to be Jesus, right? Now, this is meant to be Jesus's hair, right?
Yeah.
But that is like
that is a skull, right?
Right?
That is a reptilian.
Like, what is going on here? Like, what is going on here? And again, I choose to believe our MK Ultra survivors, and it's below this section here where a lot of horrible things take place. And I couldn't believe. I mean, Jesus on the cross, that's one thing, right? But Jesus descending into the pits of hell.
And he's there's horns, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like this looks like a spinal column, if I'm being honest with you. It's weird.
So a lot of the work I do when I work with somebody, we work together as a team because I don't want you to give me your power. But a lot of the work I do revolves around remote viewing bodies. And some of the biggest places where there's implants and devices is in the spinal column.
Right. Okay.
That really rings true for me right there. And this is designed obviously to keep us in perpetual fear.
Yeah. And just for somebody who was asking if this is AI, here's a copyrighted one, like a stamped image.
Yeah.
Right? So you know this is the real thing, right? Like here's the crazy head
Wow.
coming off the side here. I mean, mad.
Unbelievable. So
I'm telling you now, grippy shoes on that marble floor as well, because that is a treacherous walk from one side to the other. But what's your take on that? I mean, this is like Jesus HQ, effectively, right? This is the Vatican.
It's the Vatican. This, to me, this has nothing to do with the authentic soul energy that is Jesus.
Does any of the modern church? Thank you. That's, I mean, I'm not,
no, it doesn't.
I don't follow Jesus, right? But I'm on good terms with Jesus.
Exactly. I'm the same way. Jesus never wanted us to give up our power. He came here to mitigate the karma caused by the Lucifer rebellion and to tell us, hey, you got it within yourselves to do this. You can do this. You don't need them. You don't need a building of wood and stone.
When you rebrand magic as a miracle, Laura, right? That's when we have a problem, right? Because if magic doesn't exist and you get burnt at the stake for it if it exists, but it's okay sometimes if a miracle happens. The guy at this whole center of this religion was healing people. He was, making one fish into 10 fish, whatever. Like the guy was whipping out some freaking powers,
Yes.
But you've got to be able to rebrand that into a controllable format, right? So if you can do it, Laura, bad, okay? But if somebody that's been chosen can do it, it's a miracle, right?
Exactly.
And that's always one that bounced around in my head with a lot of this. So yeah, carry with what you were saying, Laura.
The imagery that you just showed us, it's hiding in plain sight. So we have a lot of humans running around the planet saying, I do not consent, I do not consent, I do not consent. Okay, that's well and fine. However, there is this concept the dark side uses because when I capture them, I quiz the hell out of them. I want to know what's what. I want to know what all the things, right? There's this concept called Carnelian law. Okay. And Carnelian law in their mind states that, well, if it's out in public, if we are sharing it with you, well, then of course you consent because we're sharing this.
Okay. I mean, for me, Laura, I think it just comes back to the belief again. Saying something out loud. If someone says, you don't have a right to attack me, 9 times out of 10, they don't have a clue what it is they're talking about. So by default, their belief and knowledge in it is null and void. So you can, it's like that scene from The American Office where Michael Scott stands up and goes, I declare bankruptcy. You have to do more than just verbally say, I declare bankruptcy.
You got to clean up your junk.
You've got to believe in what you're saying. Because if all you're doing is putting out disbelief, right, disguised as belief, that's like throwing chum into the water. You're better off saying nothing, mate, if I'm being honest, right? You're better off saying nothing until you're ready to really make your words count. And writing things down can help, right?
Yes. When we write things down, if we're journaling, it creates a tangible 3D perspective to marry into the spiritual realms. All these people that are out there saying, oh, I'm so spiritual and I'm this and I'm that, they're not grounded.
And people take writing for granted. People take writing for granted. They're like, well, what's writing down going to do? Everyone can do that. No, they can't. You learn to write. You learn to spell, right?
Right. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's the simplest form of manifestation is manifesting your thoughts onto a piece of paper. Simple, right?
Exactly.
And the simplisticness is what, again, puts people off, right? If there's not a $90 subscription a month to something, people are like, well, is it actually going to work here, right? You see what I mean? And I need everyone to get this really drilled into your head about belief and start manifesting cups of coffee. And by the time you've done that 10 times, you'll be like, well, hell, I can do this with coffee, right? But then people will say, I wanted to win the lottery and it never happened. You didn't believe.
No,
You
you know
you
what?
can believe in a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah. We
But,
have to
oh,
also grow those skills.
right? Oh,
If you
hell yeah.
if you're
Hell yeah.
praying to God, if you are praying to source, creator, whatever, if you're meditating, etc., great. And get your thoughts and actions, get your wishes, wants, hopes in alignment with what your soul energy believes, right?
Yep.
That's huge. But, if I don't believe in these elements and all of a sudden I have a $10,000 bill or whatever due and I'm praying for it, it's like it's too late. If you got to pray under an emergency situation and you're not already connected in, game over. You got to build your spiritual tool belt. There are so many ways that we can add to our spiritual tool belts: prayer, meditation, vetting who we're talking to or what we're talking with, literally creating these 3D devices that we have, but make sure they work also. There's a lot of scalar energy devices out there that can help shore up our fields, our energetic fields. But there's also a lot of fake ones out there. So you got to really do your homework. Don't blindly trust that, this thing has 10,000 reviews and they're all great. Do your homework. Trust yourself. This is a really big part of why we're in this mess, is because we blindly believe. And so when I'm working with somebody, literally I create a landscape for us so we can work together as a team. I'm never going to tell you your dead grandma is telling you that your Thanksgiving turkey was overcooked last year. Okay. You have to start seeing for yourself and understanding. And I want to talk about seeing for a moment.
Okay.
When we talk about seeing in the ethers and remote viewing, we all have that ability, but everybody's abilities are different. Some people can see a ghost energy just like a regular human. Some people can feel and sense the energy. Some people can actually smell the energy. So we're all different, but take your forte and work with it.
Yeah. And a lot of people talk about, it's hard when people try and compare their paths or journeys. It is very unique. And for me, I've always said you want to be learning the subtleties of your own intuition, like you were saying. And I give the example of when people say, pick a number between 1 and 10, think of a number, blah, blah. And they go to think of what the number is that they think the person's thinking of. They get a flash of a number right at the start. And then we instantly write that number off and we start thinking of any other number but that.
Yep.
It's so important that when you're trying to dial into things that you learn to understand that quick flash that happened is
Yeah.
probably worth more to you than the next 30 seconds of panic thinking, because that's when you start becoming susceptible to the human condition and you start doubting yourself. In that initial split second, none of that exists. There is just response from request. And
Yeah.
in when it comes to, like, for example, obviously when you hear the term demon hunter, again we go straight to Hollywood, right? It's lightning bolts and, like, you're firing freaking lightning bolts out of your fingertips and they're firing lightning bolts out there. There's a lot of stuff that people don't understand how it all kind of operates. Can you take us through some of your experiences? Obviously, you know, you
So
can you can go into this as much as you want. I don't know how much you want to talk about or anything like that
I
with any.
will I will go into it to a certain degree. One, if anybody ever wants to work with me, I don't want them to have a preconceived notion.
Okay.
Two, some of this information is slightly guarded because we can't have it all out there.
Well, you can kind of
Yeah,
twist
but I
it if
can
you want
definitely.
into
So
something that gives
one
us
of
the
the
same result without giving away your methods if you want. You don't have to get don't ex you
yeah,
don't
so
certainly don't
one of
explain
the
your methods.
absolutely. I will create and these are all visualization techniques. This is remote
Sure.
viewing. I will create a tetrahedron. So I used to be a math and Spanish teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
Who knew 20 years ago how that would play into my life now? But it does. So, geometrically speaking, a tetrahedron is the strongest shape we have. A Merkaba is two tetrahedrons, inside of one another. But I just use a tetrahedron. Why complicate things, right?
Okay.
And this is a containment field that I use. And so when I am working with, if somebody has an attachment, if somebody has dark entities, if somebody has these types of elements attached to them or in their energetic field, oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Um, we have to literally, I'm looking and searching with my teams. And so I will set up a scene in the ethers. I will bring in the angelics. I will bring in other light beings also. And when I have them come into the scene, I have them stand in rows and columns, because if they're one big clump, I don't know who's who. So they know that the protocol I have is you stand in rows and columns, and I'm going to vet every single one of you. I'm looking at them from the 40,000 bird's eye viewpoint, and I'm looking down and I'm vetting them. Salt, frankincense, myrrh, whatever. You know what the reptilians really don't like is dragon's blood resin, but I've digressed there. And so I'm looking and I'm vetting. And once that has been cleared and the shapeshifters have been removed, the holographic images have been removed, and I've got the pure light beings, we move on. And I can see and sense where these beings are. And I'll have my client look around also. And usually we're pretty much on point. And when we see and sense an area of where there might be a reptilian egg nest, for example, or something else like that, the light side will pull it up and put it into this containment field. If it's a reptilian egg nest, that gets removed, but there's going to be, I'm going to call it like a mothership or something else somewhere else also. So we look for the reptilians. And so all of a sudden I've got this huge cache of reptilians. I'll have my guides pull one out so we can start asking questions. And there's a process and a protocol, because I want to know what they know. I want to know all the things that one that is being pulled out, if it's a reptilian, if it's a gray, if it's an archon, whatever it is, they're afforded a certain level of karma by being truthful. It's above my pay grade to decide where they go. I leave that to the higher realms. But the goal is get them off the earth plane. Anybody who says they bind, bury, or cast away these demonics, that's a problem. Because if you cast them away, what can happen? They can come back. They can go to somebody else. If you bury them, they can unbury themselves. If you bind them, eventually they can be unbound. So we want to have the light side remove them permanently off the earth plane. It's as simple as that, but we've been programmed to think other things, like I need to cast them away. For years in the beginning, we had this ghost child named Annabelle, not related to the horror flick, okay? Ghost child living with us for years, and I didn't know what to do with her. I didn't know what to do with ghosts back then. And I had so many people say, well, just cast her away. Tell her to leave your house. Tell her this, tell her that. My issue with that was, if this were my child who died suddenly, was ejected out of her body, would I want that house of warmth and light to cast her away out in the middle of nowhere to wherever that is, right? To me, and that's just, I couldn't do that. So we ended up living with Annabelle for a couple of years so I could figure out how to cross over these souls. Once I crossed her over, it was like, we were all 50 pounds lighter once all these ghosts were crossed over.
Yeah, I think the hard part for you, it must have been, where do you begin with all of this? And how do you get to this point? Because, you said, how long have you been doing this now? Did you say you've been doing this now for like
20 years?
20 years, yeah, that's what I thought you said. Like, you must have this dialed in now, and the learning curve must have been something terrifying.
It was a J-curve spike.
Yeah, was there any close call moments for you? And is it, because a lot of people talk about the silver thread when they're leaving their body and things like this, and the disconnection, and you no longer existing if that happens,
right?
And keeping yourself sort of secure. What was the learning curve on that? Because and the reason that I want you to explain this is because I think a lot of people like to have a laugh and like to have a go at things.
Yeah.
And it's good to sort of put out the realities of not just the super cool light side, everyone's hugging each other and all having a good time. Like, I hate to break it to everybody, but there's another side, and you faced it off. And what were those close calls like?
They were terrifying. I remember at one point, one of my children was awake, and then all of a sudden her body was flat and she was not in the body anymore. And I'm shaking her and shaking her. And I'm like, where are you? She was ejected out of her body. It was terrifying. I didn't know what to do about it. She finally came back in and said that she was kind of taken away. I had just so many stories, but literally, I remember working on my computer one day and I'm trying to figure this out and I'm trying to be normal also. Our kids went to a very conservative school district, and I was a school teacher in that school district. I was being vetted to run for basically city council and some other things at this time. I was very high profile in those areas. I had to stop and cut off everything to figure this out. Nobody knew what happened to us. And in that process, I had to cut everybody out of my life to keep them safe because they were going after everything I loved, everything I cherished. If they couldn't break me, they're going to break me through somebody else. And so it was a very exquisitely lonely place to be. I would be choked to the point, there's nobody in my house. I'm getting choked right here so hard that I literally pass out, but nobody's home. I had beings apported into my home in the physical 3D. And apportation is when you take something out of physical manifestation into the ethers and put it into another location. I had literally one day, I'm home alone and I hear this huge plop noise in the guest bathroom. And I'm like, what is that? There was a rat in my toilet. I'm like, whoa, what? And I'm like, first of all, we had no rats in the house.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this thing struggling to get out. It's very real. I grab a Tupperware container and I scoop it up. I put a lid on it. I take it outside to the front yard in the street and I watched it pixelate and disappear before my very eyes.
Yes, it's weird things like, you know, it can be snowing outside, but all of a sudden you've got a large blue bottle inside the house. You know, there's really odd things that I've known that I've seen that have taken place. I mean, the first 10 years to 11 years of my life were, you know, traumatically filled with paranormal stuff that, I mean, a lot of it I figured out now. But these fear feeders, right? You spoke about your daughter and the shadow men, right? I think that's has become quite a collective term, the shadow people, right? I think my relationship with what I consider the shadow people are very much fear feeding beings from another dimension. Now, does that mean they're bad? I mean, if you're you're bad if you're the wolf, but you're the stag that's being eaten by the wolf, right? Does that mean the wolf's bad? And it's a weird one because my experience, there was never anything physical and the horror increased with age. So it was like they gave you what you could handle if you've seen what I mean.
Yep.
And then Monsters Inc. came out, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. So you've got monsters coming through a cupboard, scaring children to capture their screams and all. Sounds ridiculous, right? But it wasn't until I started to learn lucid dreaming that their reign of terror was over. Once they realized that I'm now in control of this realm, it was done. It was totally done. And there was the man in the hat, there was the shadow people, they had a big dog with them, and this went on from as long as I can remember memories to right up until my mid-20s, and I got the lucid dreaming tied down. But there was a scene in Trainspotting, Laura, where he's overdosing and he's sinking into the carpet, right? There's a movie in Scotland. Yeah. That's what it feels when I'm falling asleep. If I feel that, oh no, descending, I go into like, you know, you imagine somebody who's fallen asleep on the operating table and they're trying to fight the drugs that are knocking them out. That's what I go. I go into this panic. Like I'll try and roll myself out of bed if I can, because I can feel the sleep, you know, paralysis style stiffening up happening. And yeah, I'll try and combat it now, but it's been that's been the one major thing throughout my life. It has been the man in the hat, and I've got a better relationship with it now because I'm not so judgmental. Because if that was my food source,
Yeah.
like it's a
Well,
weird one, right? Or energy source or whatever, right? I mean, if it was, what would you rather keep drilling oil or nip to another dimension and catch the screams of another world's children to keep the world going? Jeez, it's one of those arguments, right?
it
Morally, we would
is.
all say
And
no, but
it
you know,
yeah,
it's a weird argument though.
it is. And these beings are nothing more than parasites to us.
Yep.
They need us. We don't need them. They chose to leave the energetic signatures, the energetic guidelines of the creator source energy. They chose that. A really good movie about the Hat Man is actually, I think it's Matt Damon in the Adjustment Bureau.
Right? Is it okay?
It's about the Hat Man. So every institution in the universe has hierarchy, a
Okay.
political
Oh yeah, here we
structure to
go.
it.
Oh, there's a guy in a hat. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, in this movie, and we've had the Hat Man. The Hat Man was actually a sentinel being, and he was reporting to his higher ups what was happening in our household. I didn't know how to get rid of him. So his job was to report and to shift our reality, shift our potential futures. That was his job. Okay, they're doing A, B, and C. And now we need to do D, E, and F to shift their potential future. And that was what was going on in our house at the time. One of the many things. And every organization, if it's corporate structures throughout the world, if it's the royalty, if it's schools, if it's churches, if it's the archons, if it's the grays, if it's the reptilians, if it's anything, there is a political hierarchy, period. And when we understand, even the angelic realms have a political hierarchy, right? So we got the seraphim, we got the archangels, we got all the things. So these are all politics. They're all a political hierarchy. And when we can understand how these political hierarchies work, we take our power back.
Yeah. I just want to say abundantly, that's exactly it. With like like what we get referred to as sleep paralysis. Scientists just they're not quite there fooling out. I mean,
Yeah.
we get paralyzed when we go into REM sleep, so we don't act out our dreams, right? But there is some weird crap that goes on in your brain when you're sleeping, right? Like, have you ever thought about sleeping? Like, you're lying paralyzed on effectively a raised floor in your house for like 6 or 7 hours. That is weird. You're just lying there.
I like
The only reason it makes sense is because we kind of all do it at the same time-ish, maybe. If we just did that sporadically out the day, that would be weird. Okay, it would be weird if we were all just sleeping at different times in the same. I know we all technically are, but sleeping is weird. And somebody was asking about the Man in the Hat. This is about as close to my experience with the Man in the Hat. This
Yeah.
is from a documentary called The Nightmare,
Yeah,
and
that's
this
what he looks
was
like.
a movie made all about how tens of thousands of people all around the world are having the same experiences, and this is what the shadow people would look like to me. This is how
Mhm.
this is bang on, and here's a
Yeah.
little group shot. This is how I knew them. This is how they would start off when I was a little boy. It would start off like that, and they would just
Exactly,
walk.
and look
They
at
would
the
just
triangulation, the unity, right, with them?
Yeah, yeah, and they would never do more than I could handle. Like it got real mad in my early 20s. It was like Inception. Like rooms were folding in on each other, and I was waking up. And there was one time I woke up and had a shower and was making breakfast, and then realized I was still sleeping. Like it was intense. It really was intense. So yeah.
It is not
Hang on a
easy.
second. We're Miss Lyle Hurd. Is that your name? Lohan Hurd. Please feel free to find a new YouTube channel to watch and enjoy yourself while you discover said new YouTube channel. But this is my experience with it all. And anyone who really wants something to sort of go and watch after this, Nightmare is a great place to start. They go into the science, they go into the spiritual side, they go into the multiple connections, and they ask science to explain how all of these people from different cultures, different worlds are having the same experience. And not many people can do that. They can't really do it. And
Yeah.
It's what's your take when it comes to the parasitical, because I believe that there's parasitical, very much like we imagine a parasite, not much going on but the feeding, right? But then there seems to be a much more intelligent level when it comes to the shadow realm and the shadow being. What's your like vision of the hierarchy of that? Would you imagine that there is
There
the
is.
there is,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So when we look at this and okay, this is based on my, I'm going to call it limited research because it's just me, right? Working with clients and working. But I feel like it's authentic. I do not, honestly, I do not listen to other podcasts. I do not listen to other people because I don't want it to taint the information. Okay. I don't
Mm.
want something
Oh
in my
yeah, okay, yeah,
subconscious
yeah,
to
I'm
go
with you.
through. Okay. So, um, there is a political hierarchy and even among the demonics. So for example, I call them Anunnakis and no energy, Anunnakis. It's like they are the tip of the triangle. And then you've got like the archons, you've got the grays, you've got the reptilians. And within those hierarchies, you've got subsets within each group. You've got the tall white grays, you've got the EBEs, you've got the more of the scientific reptilians, which are the ones in control. They're smaller bodied versus the bigger, larger ones that kind of go on to the earth plane or other these types of dimensions. And so what I've learned is that the grays are kind of like the power brokers between a lot of these entities and groups. They are the ones who do most of the experimentation upon humans. They're the ones, from my understanding, that have created the concept of sleep paralysis and night terrors. When you take your child to the doctor complaining about sleep paralysis and night terrors, and that doctor says, oh, it's just normal. No, it's not normal for your child to be terrorized. There's something else happening in that child's sleep state. And I want to talk about what people can do to help themselves and help other people when it comes to this concept right here.
Mhm.
Change the frequency of the sleep space. Okay. Sleeping is to recharge, regenerate, rejuvenate. But if you can't do that, then you're at a deficit. So, one, the concept from Dr. Masaru Emoto, Messages from Water, he studied how
Yeah, I can pull that
frequencies
up.
shifted. He studied how frequencies shifted water crystals, right?
Yeah,
He
I'm
went,
bringing it up there for you. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. And so he was genius in that sense, but because he taught us that everything is alive. And so if you can play Mozart music, and you did a lot of studying with Mozart music and water crystals, what happens is you're raising the vibrational frequency of your home and of your sleep state. You can play a track of Mozart on volume number 1 in another room. The energy doesn't dissipate. It literally goes through the house and creates this nice subtle energy barrier. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is beautiful.
Do you know what really put it in perspective for me was those damn tuning forks. We had a lady on the other day with a tuning fork. And I mean, she had a Gucci tuning fork, right? And she twanged this thing, and it was like I've never. It was awesome. First of all, it was a
Yeah.
good thing, right? But man, it worked. Like it was one of a really powerful moment, because I think it's because of the headphones and the quality of the sound that was coming through. It pierced my soul, Laura, this vibration. And we're like, what, 90%, 80% water? Something like that?
Mhm.
Like our bodies, right?
Right.
And here's the thing. A rather interesting one is if I'm if I take away your hearing, right? And I stand in front of you, this close to you, and I scream in your face, right? You don't need to hear to pick up the vibe of what's happening, right? You can also you can sense the energy that's coming into you. You can even do it with your eyes and your ears covered, and that is so prevalent when you look at these results. It's the same with rice too, but this is much more magnified. Rice is very much like the Timu version of this that you can do at home with
Exactly.
rice and see the mold happening. But this, I mean, look at love and appreciation compared to you make me sick, I will kill you. Like, there's not even, if I said to you, Laura, what are these? You're going to say snowflake, maybe like a zoomed in piece of like the middle of a crunchy bar, or like some sort of honeycomb something. You're not going to think either of these things are related, right? They're so far gone. And is that not just kind of scary to think
Yeah.
when we sit down and we watch the news, when we sit down and we see what is projected on television, everything seems to be dialed in to keeping us terrified, consuming, and inside. And if you've got any questions, in fact, we're even past the look past yourself, look to the higher God era. We're just in the believe in nothing era. Okay. And I don't know what's more scary. I really don't, because if we're not looking into ourselves and we're not looking outward, a lot of people, that's when you create this vulnerability, and you have lost people looking to be found. And when we talk about vulnerable children and we look at the whole, just take the grooming pyramid, okay? The grooming pyramid business model, and apply that on the spiritual world when it comes to vulnerability, okay? When you are sitting there and you're not loving yourself and you're projecting negativity and you believe you deserve nothing, then you shall receive nothing.
Exactly. Right. You're manifesting nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you say, well, that if you're manifesting nothing, okay, understand you can manifest something instead of nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
but your belief in nothing far succeeds your belief in something. And you got to get your head around it, because it's so powerful. Once that first cup of coffee turns up, right? And I tell you what, see if we need to go even more mainstream for you. Go and watch The Secret or something from like 20 odd years ago, okay? And be like, whoa, law of attraction, baby. Whatever you need to brand this as, religion, science, hippiness, whatever. Just get it into your head, okay? Because they're all right, okay? Stop worrying so much about what people will think about the path you're on. It's the destination that's important, and we've all gone a different road to get there. And you just need to dial into what works for you. What would your advice be, Laura, to people that are on their journey who are concerned maybe about negative things, or things don't feel right? Let's not. I'm not talking like there's a real dark evil force here. Like, before you need to really call in the big guns, what would you say that people can do to like lift their home and just make their place feel, their self feel better? It all comes from within, right? It's about radiating outwards.
Absolutely comes from within. The ability to learn to trust our intuition is our superpower. I said that earlier.
Yep.
When we can trust our intuition, and if we want to manifest something, we need to speak it, we need to write it, but also we have to be in resonance with what we want to manifest. If we are not in resonance with what we want to manifest, then we are not going to get it, because we don't believe we deserve it. And there's tips and tricks and tools. And I actually talk about manifestation quite a bit on my website, in various blogs and courses, because when we can get in alignment with manifestation, then we take away the dark side's power.
Mhm.
We enter this quantum field, for lack of a better cliche term. We enter this field of infinite possibilities, and I can pick this and I can pick this. And once we know, we know. So when we leave these bodies, and once we know that my time here on this planet is over for right now, now that I know, I go straight up, right? I don't take a detour. I don't bypass. I'm not looking to be anybody's food supply, so to speak, in those lower astral realms. Once we know, we know. Getting this word out right here, right now, is exactly why I do what I do. We talk about our health all the time. We talk about our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our financial health. But do we ever talk about the health of our soul? When we start talking about soul health and how to cultivate a healthy soul, we grow literally these sheets of armor around us, so none of these entities can have access to us. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think we could do with winding back the clock about 5,000 years and having a serious discussion with some people around a table who are planning out the next 5,000 years of this madness, because
I'm with you.
none of this, no one's fallen into this, okay? Like, trust me, there was some serious discussions about what the hell, Tartaria, is it Tartaria? That place
Yeah.
that just disappeared. Like, there's a reason why on the Great Wall of China, okay, all of the sniper turrets face into China, okay? All I'm saying, people, is if that's China's wall, other way is where the sniper towers are going to be, okay? I know it's arrows, bows and arrow towers, okay? But you know what I'm saying? So there is a lost knowledge, okay? And there's one person, okay, you can look up, and that is the freaking Coral Castle guy. You know
In
about the Coral
Florida?
Castle guy? Yeah, in Florida.
Yeah.
Right. So this guy, he decided to build a castle and effigy to his love out of coral that he cut himself, that no one's seen him cutting, and just moved to here, right? So he's done all this, and there was rumors of people seeing him using some device that had a tone that came out of it to lift stuff and all this. Like, his granddad's 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 granddad, his granddad was clearly savvy to some knowledge, right? And this vibration, it always comes back to vibration, right? And I keep talking about the didgeridoo, Laura, right? When you get a didgeridoo, you know, the
Yep.
and you put
Yep.
a leaf or a pebble in the end of it, you can lift up that leaf or the pebble, right? So logically, you just scale that up for the pyramids, right? You scale it up for the pyramids, or the technology becomes more refined. You either scale up what you have or you refine what you have to be more direct and precise, right? Which obviously I don't think anyone had mile-long didgeridoos. Could work though, arguably, right?
Well, how are those pyramids in Egypt built?
Right,
Right?
exactly. So it's one of
It
those ones.
wasn't through rolling logs on stones
Oh,
on logs,
I tell you what, if it was, do it again. And
right?
I mean, we'll all pitch in. We've all got to do one 24-hour shift on Ron's big pyramid idea. Everyone just turns up for their day. You push your stone. You go back to your life, and we'll see how many humans are left by the end of it, right? Because I'm telling you, after four hours of pushing one of them, I'm out, bro.
Exactly.
I'm out. So the vibrations, right? And again, I make the joke about scaling up, but you would refine it, right? So we know that a vibration, a sound can lift something. We know that a sound can let us see our babies in tummies and things like this. We know that vibration and sounds can do incredible things. But we can't see them, so it can't be that cool, right? It can't possibly be that major, right? Is that the great weapon that they've done? If they just convinced us that if it isn't how Hollywood have depicted it, then there's no point, right? I mean, that's what I feel like, because the subtleties are beautiful, but we miss them, right?
It's true. And sound technology has been around for millennia and millennia. And, I remember actually being at the LA airport going through customs one day. And again, my intuition's pretty on point. All right. I'm always working to cultivate my intuition. And I feel this, oh my God, I need to be protected moment. And so I was with a friend of mine and I got myself protected. I'm working on her. And the next thing I know, and it's a very crowded customs, we're all leaving the airport, going back in the United States. And everybody drops to their knees around. And we hear this big, we feel this big boom sound. I have no idea what it was to this day, but everybody around me fell to the ground. I am not making that up. And I was okay. My friend was really off balance, but I think we were hit by an energy weapon. I think it was just target practice for somebody, something. But sound can be used, frequencies can be used for many different things. Back to the messages from water. Our thoughts are things. What are we putting out into the universe? Build your spiritual tool belt. When we start listening to our intuitive abilities, we start acting and reacting in our lives with wisdom and discernment. We start connecting to our higher self so much easier with our intuition. We are now reconnected to this creator source energy that is here to help us while we're having these human experiences. This is a really big deal. I want to kind of step back a moment and talk about sleep paralysis a little bit. We talked about, playing Mozart is one aspect to remove the sleep paralysis. So sleep paralysis, I can't remember what I exactly said earlier, but I did a past life regression on somebody who was having sleep paralysis. And it's an ancient gray technology where in this perfect moment between sleep and awake, they slip this like Faraday type cage around the person so they can literally experiment upon us. But if we can raise the vibrational frequency such that they can't have access to us with Mozart music, putting on a green light at night creates an energetic barrier. Using burning resins.
That's interesting, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you. My brain, everyone hates it. I can't help it, right? Colors is another thing, right? Because I've got a projector light that I put on at night, and I'm cycling through the colors now and paying attention to the sleep that I get. Now, the light doesn't necessarily cast over me, but it'll cast over the whole ceiling and the walls. I like having dark patches of walls and light patches of walls so that I can paint the room with the colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, and you being able to sort of say, well, actually, stay away from this and that. What would you say for the best sort of dreamy, nighty, snoozy effect? Would green be the light to go for when it's about sleeping, or do the colors start getting split depending on if you're not sleeping, if you're sitting up and reading? Do the colors have different effects depending on your mindset? And is sleep just dialing into you being relaxed, or is it specifically more for sleep? If that made sense, I'm so sorry.
It does make sense. So different colors have different vibrational frequencies. I've studied biogeometry with Dr. Ibrahim Karim, Robert Gilbert, love those guys. So colors have different frequencies. The frequency of green at night has an energetic signature that keeps out certain elements out of the room. Now, green is also a healing color. Blues are also color. Blue is a calmer energy. You don't want to sleep in a room that's, bright red, because that's a fire energy. Fire is great, don't get me wrong, but when you want to go to sleep, you don't want to be in that energetic signature necessarily. So choose colors that you resonate with. What resonates with me something else may resonate differently with you. But I have found that the frequency of green at night helps to stave off those that are trying to create sleep paralysis. Essential oils are the same way. There are certain oil frequencies. So an essential oil is the life force energy of a plant. So frankincense oil, the Christ child was gifted frankincense, gold, and myrrh.
It's really weird because it's a different type of green, very herbal one that actually helped me get rid of sleep paralysis demons, and that's just an ironic factor as well. It's so weird because just carrying with what you were saying, please. But the plants and the green and that's interesting. Please continue.
Yeah. So essential oils are the life force energy of a plant. It's the flower, right? What is the new life on that plant? These oils all have different frequencies. Christ child was gifted frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And we're like, well, gold makes sense, but why was he given tree sap, right? Or oils? Because the energetic signature, the frequency, the three magi, the three magician knew he was going to be in there for a wild ride, right? We have access to so many spiritual tools nowadays that we've never had access before. Lavender, orange oil, all of these work. Maybe today I need this oil or that oil. But also, I actually, in my book, My Journey from Teacher to Exorcist, I talk about how I almost burnt my house down with sage. It literally did nothing for me.
It makes me sick.
Like
when you smell sage and you're cooking with it, you're like, actually, that smells quite nice. And you burn it. You burn it. I'd rather burn my hair. I'm not going to lie. And I did. I had a lighter pop the other day, and I burnt all my arm hair off, and it stunk. Okay, it stunk. But smells. See, oils. We always go to oils, right? Because it's a good way of buying a lot of smell in a tiny bottle, right?
You don't even need to use it. You can open it up and smell it.
Yep. I literally have 3 bushels of lavender that are drying, hanging on a cupboard over there. I've got little bags of lavender, and I crush them, and I'm like this with it, right? And lavender, it's a very centering it's a very centering smell for me. Do you know what I'm saying? So like it just that's what it feels like in my brain.
And that's what your soul energy that is you, Ron,
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah. Oh,
And
100%. It's definitely a Ron thing. And I'm
and
like a
it may
baby with
be
it. This is like
different
my
from
blankie.
somebody else. One of my daughters can't get enough lavender. I mean, she just it's good for her.
Yeah.
I like it too, don't get me wrong. But these are big deals. We have all these tools. I literally almost burnt my house down with sage. So in the beginning, again, I knew nothing.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm telling a friend of mine, like, we got some weird things going on. And she's like, oh, honey, go burn some sage. I'm like, what sage and where do you get sage? I mean, I know I cook with it, but what do you mean? And she's like, oh, just go buy a bundle of dried sage. I'm like, okay, where do I go do that? And so she says, go to the store. And so I buy this like cute little bundle of sage with some dried flowers in it and stuff. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, the flowers are deceiving, Laura. You look at the flowers and you go, oh, this will be the nice one. Uh-huh.
And so
I imagine you lit it and went, it's faulty. It's faulty.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay. Because by the way, I mean, my hope has been shattered to solve my family's problem now for years. Okay. And so I buy these sage bundles and I buy 3 of them. And she says, open up a window or door and just, smudge your house with sage. I'm like, okay, first of all, I need the definition of smudge for sage. I didn't know what it was. So, okay, I do the things, nothing shifted. And I tell my friend, who, by the way, is very well-meaning. She goes, oh, did you buy white sage? And I'm like, I had no idea there's a difference. She goes, well, I just harvested some white sage and I'm going to bring you some tomorrow morning. And so I literally get these bundles of white sage, take the kids to school, husband's off at work. It's just me and the animals. And I'm like, well, she's like, just burn one at a time because they're really powerful. I'm like, well, if one bundle is really good, 12 is going to be awesome, right?
No, at no point, Laura, okay, has anyone thought to themselves, a dozen will do, okay?
Infinite
that's a Laura thing. That's a Laura thing where your brains went, I used to do maths, okay? Right. And in math, big numbers, better.
Bingo. So I put these 12 bundles of sage in a giant, large silver mixing bowl. But I open up.
You lit them all in a bowl?
In a metal bowl.
Oh, wow. Yeah, your house is burning down. 100%. 100%.
And so what happens when metal gets hot? It gets really hot, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I've got
because you've got a bonfire in it, Laura. A bonfire hen. Okay? Outside.
I literally scorched the ceiling of the... But remember, I've been operating on 2 hours of sleep for years now, okay? I am like, So I burn the sage. The smoke is billowing. I don't even have hot pads or anything to grip the silver bowl. I drop it. It falls on the table, thank God. And I grab some hot pads and I throw it outside and I start hosing it off. Meanwhile, my house is so full of smoke. I'm like, oh dear God, please don't let the neighbors see this. They will call the fire department.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? It didn't solve my problem.
No, it didn't. No. It burnt your table and made a mess. Is what it did.
It was awful. Our house reeked for weeks.
Oh, it lingers. It lingers. There's a reason why
my eyes are burning just thinking about that. Yep, absolutely, Amanda.
Yeah. I thought I was doing it wrong. I'm like, how can there be a wrong way to light something on fire? I've been like, do you know what I'm saying? Apart from a cigarette, there's a right end and a wrong end. Okay, I mean, I get that, but I mean, it was hardcore. But I think with a lot of people, they see the first. They go onto the internet, they learn about saging, they see someone doing this, and that's all they do. And there's a huge process that people just aren't in a 30-second TikTok. And for the people that it works for, it really works for them. Do you see what I'm saying? But yeah, I just feel like
my problem was different than my problem.
Well, do you know what it is, right? I know that quiche is just an egg pie with a fancy name, Laura, right? I've never had quiche because I know what it is. It's just an egg pie and it's lying, okay? You might love quiche, okay, because you see it as quiche. It's an egg pie, okay? And to me, that's what sage is. I don't gel with it, right? But then there's a funny little wood that I can never remember the name of that smells a bit like coconut.
Santo, maybe.
Palo Santo, something Arana Bajanaran. That's the one. I've got a pile of that. And see, for a short-term sagey thing, right? I'll use something like this. But I use smoke as a powerful tool to transfer my will and intent.
Hmm.
anywhere around the world, into the nether realms, wherever. So I think I'm sort of on maybe a different board than some people when it comes to being able to truly believe in what I'm doing. It's very simple for me, but it's a very short term thing. It's very much like in fact, the last times I was doing it were when my kids were upset, like my young kids were upset. I would do something to just get the room away, because not necessarily is anything evil there to upset them. But if a friendly anything appears in front of kids, it can be quite a lot. So it's a bit of a like a spiritual pledge. You know what I'm saying? Just a wee pledge until the dust resettles again. But smoke's a big thing for me. I don't know how your relationship is with the
It
element.
So what works for me is burning pure resin. That smoke
Mm,
works for me. Frankincense, dragon's blood, myrrh turbocharges the power of frankincense.
mm.
And so
So I deal
burning,
with the flesh, and you deal with the blood,
yeah,
so to say.
yeah. And so the resin of a tree is the blood life force of the tree, right?
Correct.
And burning that resin was what finally ridded out of my house
Mm,
the what I would call lower realm entities. And lower realm entities are these, like, they might be a little bit of around a meter tall, 2 to 3 feet tall. And they're these wispy things, and we see them out of the corner of our eye, or maybe we feel them on our legs or something like that. I watched all of these lower realm entities leave my house and absolve, just disappear.
Gonzo. Yeah. Yeah. And again, when we say when Laura's saying lower realm entities, like, you got to understand, like, there's a big difference between, the common flu and Ebola. Okay.
Yeah,
They're kind of the same. Okay. They're
right.
terms, right? But one's slightly different outcome. Okay.
Yeah,
So there is this maintenance that needs to be done, in the same way as if you've got a couple of house mice, you would get some, you do some maintenance, you get the traps out, you get them going. And that's really what the majority of what people will be experiencing is the lower end stuff, right? The demonic pigeons,
yeah.
as I call them, right? They're everywhere. They're a nightmare. They will poop on you. Okay. And it's a matter of just sort of clearing these things out. When would you say to somebody that things are a bit more serious, like the alarm bells that go off? Because, as you've explained, I think it would be a lot better for a very scary, terrible entity to convince you it's not really all that bad, right?
Right.
So, what are
Yeah.
the sort of key signs that you've noticed, or is everything different? And again, if you don't want to mention because you don't want to
Oh, no, I have
pre-install
no
anything,
problem. A
sure,
lot of times people have blockages, like
okay,
they keep hitting the same brick wall with job or career or finances or relationships. They can't seem to get past a certain point. What is blocking you from achieving your true potential? Once you achieve your true potential, how harmful are you to the dark side, right? So those are some of the keys. You go into your home and you don't feel good, or you feel like you're always being watched, but it's not a good kind of watched.
mm-hmm.
You literally will clean your house and it doesn't look clean. It looks dull to the eyes. There's nothing clean or crisp about it.
Mm-hmm.
Those
It's
are
like a
some of the
filter,
more,
right? It's like a
yeah,
filter, or
yeah,
like, remember what the telly used to look like in the 80s, right? Compared to what the telly looks like now. That's what it's like, right? It's like
yeah,
it's your house, but it's not quite sharp enough, right? It's not quite HD 4K happiness. You know what I'm saying? That's a really good way of putting it, actually,
yeah.
Laura. It
And if
really is.
there's something in your house that doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. By the way, don't donate it because maybe there's something attached to it. Just get rid of it.
Give
Unless
it
it's
to someone you don't like. That's
I
what
know,
Ron
right?
does. That's what Ron does. Oh, scary item, is it? I know where this is going. Christmas is around the corner. Spike gift. Spike gift a demon this year. Okay. Ron's having
Okay.
an interesting year. Okay. If
Yeah.
you got a haunted item, give it to that. You all know
That
that one
special
person.
not so loved one?
Yeah. Oh, and even better, leave it on their door, like it came out of nowhere. Okay. No, I digress. Okay, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when it comes to getting rid of these items, what would your suggestion be for people?
Um, you need to work on what is going on in your life. For example, one of the biggest entry points, and this is not going to make me popular by saying this, but I don't care. one of the biggest entry points for this dark side are violent video games.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're bringing violence, the frequency of violence into your home, even though you're a good person. Remove the violent video games. Learn how to clean and clear yourself. Now, are all violent video games negative like that? I can't say yes or no.
So what's really interesting, Laura, right? You say this, right? Do you know the biggest video game in the world right now is a game called Ark Raiders, right? Where you've got to go and salvage metal from robots in a dystopian world. But it's up to you whether you want to murder other players, okay? And it's kind of split the world in half that are playing this right now, because some of us want to walk around with flutes and guitars, right? And I'll sing Kumbaya and have a great time. I'm one of those guys, okay?
Yeah.
It's called the Care Bear lobbies, right? And it's a really weird gaming experience, because for years we were forced to fight each other in games. There was no choice, right? And now we have a choice. There's a bunch of us that just want to hang out on roofs and blow up robots, right? But there's a bunch of people that it is just about murdering everyone and stealing all your stuff, right? And it's so weird, because you'll be having like 3 hours of great gaming, and then all of a sudden someone will come and murder you for no reason, and then they'll be laughing and it'll all be this big joke to them. And it's a really interesting insight into the human mind, because when up until that point, I'd never been given a choice. If I'm playing Call of Duty, I'm just going in to shoot pixel people. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now you have this choice. So now I only find myself shooting back to defend the innocents in the game. It's a weird dynamic. And but to me, it's a much closer example of what humans would do in a scenario like that.
Well, look at the history of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Clans fighting clans, tribes fighting clans. Everybody's always trying to kill each other. And now in this stage of humanity, we're shifting to what exactly you're talking about.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's an age limit on games for a reason. I don't think kids should play violent video games. But for me, I get a lot of joy from the games I play. But I'm not really But in saying that, even if I am killing people, they're the baddies, Laura. They're real bad. They're real bad baddies.
The people who are out killing you and laughing about it, right?
Right? It's crazy. Like, I've got friends that I play with that get really upset because it's like, it's almost like the word mortified gets brought. They're like, I can't believe somebody walked up to me and shot me in the back of the head with this in a shot, and it's a virtual game. But they get really they get really upset that side of humanity pops up, because you're either protected from it in one type of game or you're actively pursuing it in another type of game. But this brings the two of them together and gives you that choice. And it's been a very fascinating for 6 months that this game's been out, watching it roll out, because you can clearly see the different types of people. And exactly what you said there, when all you have is the option to be violent in a video game, you've got no choice but to be. Right. And it wasn't until this game came out that I started thinking about the lack of choice and the lack of decision making. And I'm not fully sold on what a lot of people say violent video games can bring. I think when it comes to kids and what kids experience growing up and becomes normal, it can 100% lead to that. But I don't think you're wrong when you say what you're bringing into the world, what it is you're viewing. But the way that you view it, I think, has to be a factor too. And I think that's a lot.
Here's the other aspect of this is, no matter what realm we are in, we always have the right to defend ourselves. If we choose not to defend ourselves, we are allowing ourselves to be abused, which means I am now incurring negative karma. So we have the right to defend ourselves, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not saying that everybody that plays a video game is going to, be full of demonics. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying for weak-minded people, it's an easy access point.
It's not even, there's weak-minded people, but it's also, if you're an evil dude, right, and you want to simulate evil deeds, it's a lot easier to get an evil deed simulator than a good deed simulator. Let's be honest, right? Unless you just want to drive cars around, or like a non-aggressive game, right? So I think that is an interesting one, because if my intention is I want to bring evil to the world, and I can then simulate that, that's going to manifest my intent and belief and want for that, and reinstill it. So that's a really, you're one of the only people that's actually ever put a point in my head to get me thinking on the topic of that. To be perfectly honest,
I never speak in absolutes because an absolute is very judgmental, right?
Jeff's just said we don't have the right to defend ourselves against a tyrannical state. We actually do. It's just if we don't all do it at once, just a little bit of us will be put in jail, and the rest of you will go, "Oh shit! I'm glad we didn't storm Area 51, boys. It didn't work out well for them." But yeah, if we were united together, it would work, Jeff. It's just. I know I'm going to turn up, but it's the rest of the population, you know. And if we are united, and it's that division that's been caused as well. But I'm sorry.
You know, the first rule in terrorism is a division works every time.
Yeah.
So
and they've divided everything. They really have.
It's right there. And we have to understand that we all have different viewpoints and perspectives. It doesn't mean you're right, I'm wrong, you're right. It just means that we have different perspectives. Everybody has different experiences within this lifetime and within our soul's history. These experiences dictate who we are, who we strive to be, where are we going.
I had a very, I mean, it was really exciting, but when you have all your past lives done and it's the same life over and over and over, and sometimes you're a guy, sometimes you're a girl, like my past lives are grim. Right? There is a foreshadowing of you are dying alone because of your cause. Super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I'm with you on that one. Absolutely.
It's one of those things, like I've said it 100 times. I just wanted to make camping videos. Okay. And you fast forward 10 years and I've done all my work with the dark web and the cartels and all this madness. And now I'm on this awakening journey that I've realized I've been going on. I've never not been on an awakening journey. I just understand the title of it now. And if we can get it into our heads that all the things that people see as gifts, right? If I have something and you have something, it's not a gift. Okay. Is blinking a gift?
Okay. I have a problem with the word gift.
Well, that's what do I.
If I have thrown these abilities away, or if I could have returned them or whatever it is.
You can't, Laura. Okay. Welcome to the club. I wanted to make camping videos, Laura. Okay. So I we're on the same page. So it's one of those things. These things aren't gifts. These are in us all.
I call them abilities.
Thousands of years of conditioning, right? Being told that reincarnation is a sin, being told that unless it's a miracle, magic will get you burnt at a stake. All of this will repress a bunch of stuff, okay? And until they can rent it back to you with a monthly subscription, they ain't going to tell you that these things are possible. We should be able to just tap into each other. If we're on the same soul tribe, we should be able to tap into each other. But instead, they rent us a phone to do it, right? You know what I'm saying? We should be able to astral project, leave our bodies in or other husks and move, but they sell us a plane ticket. Okay. Our abilities are shit for business. Okay. Real bad. And they learned that with polio. When they cured polio and they went, oh shit.
We just
we can't rent.
That's why we can't.
We've missed out on the subscriptions, Laura. Okay, we should have rented the polio vaccination to these people. Do you see what I mean? And you just have to scale that across everything. You really do.
I go to the grocery store and there's a pharmacy at this grocery store. It is wall to wall of prescriptions.
Yeah.
And I live in a tiny town.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. It's crazy. The last time I ripped a tooth out the other week, and it was a long process, but I got that bugger out. I'm not a fan of a higher power telling me there's something wrong with me. My body will deal with it. Yeah. Okay. And if anything comes to the surface that feels lumpy, I'll cut it out. I've done it a few times. Yeah. It's not that big a deal.
Bodies are rental units.
I don't recommend you do not listen to Ron's rants as advice. Okay. None of this I suggest you ever do. Ron's a different. Ron's different.
Talking about Ron.
Right.
What you should do.
Do not cut things out of yourself and then say Ron told you to do it on the internet. Okay. Okay. But it's true. I've got scars on my arms and things like this. And for me, the stress of being told something is almost as detrimental as what it is I'm being told. And I know that sounds crazy. Please, none of you think this is me teaching you anything. I'm just telling you my own things. And I've had things and I've had pains and I've had a lot of stuff going on. I've never broken a bone. I've lightly fractured bones. But I've convinced that I've done a lot of things with my mind. And
yeah,
it's
I know that to be true.
yeah.
Our minds are our most powerful asset. I mean,
I agree.
You have a fractured bone, you can actually work on healing it.
There's a lot of crazy stuff. But once you get past the coffee stage, I got past the coffee stage 30 years ago. All right. So I've got 30 years of XP bar in testing and believing and having the reinforcements and the acknowledgements of what is happening is what I think it is. And when you get there, it's an exciting place to be, right? It's an exciting place to be. But there's a lot of, you will tackle all of your inner demons going through this process. There's no tiny little doubt demon or guilt demon that you're going to not be. You have to process all of it until you are centered and balanced again.
Yeah.
There is no off balance on this journey. There is only you lying to yourself that you are on this journey. You've got to get that balance. You have to.
Spirituality should never, ever be a contest.
No.
And we need to be grounded while we're in this 3D body, this dense body. We need to be grounded. All of these people that are, I'm in the 5D, I'm in the 5D. The minute I punch you in the face, guess what? You're not.
See, this is another thing. I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I've not read a book. I've not followed any teachings. I've never watched a YouTube video. I've never watched anything. Never looked for knowledge. Never done anything. This is like close to 35 years of self-taught, making up words for stuff, trying to explain things that have happened.
Oh.
Not needing anyone to clarify anything because it's happened to me. So why would I be saying to anyone else, oh, this has happened to me, blah, blah, blah. Because by them acknowledging or denying it, that would affect or diminish my memory and opinion and belief in what has happened. And I've stuck true to that for my entire life. Okay. And it's lonely and it's isolating and it's maddening at sometimes, but it's the metaphor of the mad wizard in his tower, right? Yeah. And it can get a little bit like that. So just be aware.
This is where we get our authentic truth also.
Yep. It's true.
I don't need a subscription to get my authentic truth.
Oh, you do not. You do not. And it will face you down. But this is another thing. There is great comfort in group learning too. Like a lot of my light worker friends, they love a group. They love a drum circle. They love all that stuff. And it works for them, and don't ever deny yourself what you feel is right for you on this path. Okay.
You got to ask yourself questions, right? What rings true for me and why? Don't forget to ask yourself the why, because that gives us a deeper viewpoint as to why this is working.
Yeah.
What's working for me and why? Is it the drum circle? Is it this? Is it that? What works for me and why? And what works for me may not work for you. It may not work for you. It may not work for you. And that's okay.
Well, we had a couple of questions, right? Like I've saved a couple of them here. And one of them was from Anna. And it was, what does Laura suggest to block portals from opening? Is there anything we can do to block them? Or is it more about just protecting the whole place as a blanket?
I would work on, I do close portals quite often because the light side doesn't need portals to have access to us, but guess who does? All right. So when I see a portal, and let's just pretend it's, right here, there's a few things you can do. You can ask the angelic realms to close it for you. It does not have a right to be there, especially if you feel like it's uncomfortable. You can visualize yourself literally filling it with whatever high frequency sound substance you want. I tend to use a few things. I tend to pour a white light into it, and I tend to shore it up with a mirror facing down into the portal. These are all visualization techniques. So whatever is coming at me now has to be returned by the energy of this mirror. And then I will seal it up with maybe an elite shungite or a black tourmaline or something that's just kind of heavy duty protection. That's my basic protocol for closing up a portal. I hope that helps.
Okay. Yeah, that was one that really stuck out for me. And is there anything else you want to cover or tell the people about? Have you got anything that's up and coming, anything you're working on? Let us know before we sort of wind down, Laura.
A couple of things. One is I am doing a few retreats here and there and some speaking events. They're all on my website, lauravantine.com. It's my name with a .com behind it. On my website, yes, I have services. Yes, I have these things, but I also write weekly blogs because I know that sometimes people just want information, and I do my best to make sure these blogs are written, they're pure, they're clean, all of those things. I've got a few books out there also that are on the website. One is spiritual war, navigating the unseen realm, and this book is like a handbook on how you can protect yourself. Because the deal is that we all have access or rights to have these tools. Okay.
Right.
There's, all kinds of basic tools that help yourself, but basically find what works for you and work with it. You are in charge of your soul's health, your soul's growth. But these blogs I've got like 2 or 3 years worth at this point. I write one a week. And they're helpful if you're having trouble with reptilians, if you want to know what lucid dreaming is, how to create an energetic boundary against, living people, for example, a little bit of everything. And just type into that search what you're looking for, and you should auto-populate some blogs.
Okay.
So, thank you.
We just had another quick question, right, which is another one that's just ties in with the last one. How would we know if there was a portal? I mean,
good question.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if you're doing a lot of low end maintenance all the time, and it just seems to not be doing anything, it would either be you're not going high enough up the pay grade, or that there is a portal that is just letting the sewage in, right?
Portals open up for a variety of reasons. Usually, we don't know why. If your home is chronically having issues, maybe with plumbing, electrical, your cars, etc., there's something else going on. There's an undertone of a discontent of energy, so to speak. And so, having said that, look and see, how do you know there's a portal? If you're sensitive to know that there's something off in a certain room, it's probably a portal or there's some entity there. You can use orange essential oil and just diffuse that for a while and see how that shifts the energy. So that may be helpful for some people.
Okay. Oh, well, listen, Laura, this has been a great conversation, and
thank you.
The world that you've sort of been thrust into, it's really, really fascinating, and I think a lot of us would be surprised at just how many people seek help from people like yourselves. They're stepping past what pills can do, what religious institutions can do, and we're getting back to where we were. And again, the tuning fork stuff from the other night was mind. My mum came up today and she was like, "Oh, I watched your show the other day, and you'll never guess what." And she pulls this freaking tuning fork out of her bag, and for the last 2 months, she's been healing her own shoulder with this tuning fork.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what? So
I've got a set.
Listen. Do you know, it's one of those moments. It's like, until you see a ghost, you don't believe in ghosts, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am not a blind faith guy at all. Okay. There's something about those tuning forks, Laura. There's something really serious about them tuning forks, Laura. Okay.
All of a sudden, Ron sews in. He's like, "Whoa!"
But it's all in this frequency. I swear, the last 2 years, if information was delivered in punches, I would be in a a safe space for abused men, because the information has been battering frequency into me. It's like every conversation, frequency. Everywhere I'm going, frequency. And then a tuning fork, which is basically all about frequency. It is just, I get it. All right. I get it. Get it.
I call it getting hit over the head by the cosmic 2x4.
Right? But I mean, it's like you're gonna have to expand on this. Okay,
I
I
used
get
to
it.
be 6 feet tall. Now I'm 4 feet tall. So whatever.
Right. It's one of them. So I'm definitely going to delve into that because that was a major, like I felt a physical, like
You're feeling the effects of that
those world.
energy shore up
Mhm.
your auric field is what we're feeling
Yeah.
with those things, right?
But what does that mean? What so does that mean I can go and get 50 tuning forks, right? And start refining what I can achieve based off of different frequencies that I'm absorbing. And if that's the case, right, there must be a spectrum, right? There
Yeah.
must be good feelings and bad feelings. Okay. So then
So
what happens if we start mixing them, Laura? What happens if we take a little whisper of this and a little dabble of that and we do a bit bong 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 bong? Like, what's going to happen? I'm going to find out, Laura, because this is where I'm getting pushed. It's all about that. And I can't kill myself with a tuning fork. Unlike
fair.
someone who almost burnt their house down, Laura.
That's right.
I'm just saying. So yeah, it's one of them. Now, I usually end the show with the guest, but there was a question that has just been put in by a guest and by one of our viewers, and it was about her husband, and it was about. Hang on a second. Here we go. So I feel like there's so much negative energy in my house, and it's also following my husband. He wants to be a good person, but he struggles with fits of anger for no reason. I can relate.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
And if he's open to working with somebody, that can really shift the energy. He probably has something attached to him, but his conscious self doesn't know what it is. His subconscious self is screaming for help.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of feeling it. I don't want to feel in too much because I don't have a right to dive into that husband's energy field. Okay. So I'm kind of giving some generics, but yeah, that is real.
Yeah. I just want to give some advice too to her husband. Talk to your wife, bro. Okay. Like, I know you think you talk to people, okay, but you probably don't.
We
And
talk
for
like
40
this,
years, for
right?
40 years, I never spoke to anyone. And 6 months ago, I started talking. And it's a fucking superpower, bro. It's like you take all of the stress, like as a man, you don't imagine the physical effects of just having a chat, right? See, when you get your problems and you share it with a friend, it's like trauma dumping's real. I go into computer games, trap an innocent person in a room, and just trauma dump. And I'm like, I'm on my way now. Dude, try just every single time you have a problem, speak to someone. Every time that you're worried about something, speak to someone. And you'll find that anger is actually all of the stress that at the end of a day you come home, you want to relax, but you can't because your tank's full. In fact, your tank's overflowing, bro. And you don't even know there was a tank. Okay.
Right.
And then
You hit
once you
that
start
pressure
emptying
valve,
it,
take the pressure off.
right?
Boom.
And then all of a sudden you come home from work and you're like, oh shit, this feels weird. What is this? Oh, this is being relaxed. Is what it is because you've not been relaxed for the last 20 years. It's really, really, really empowering, bro. So, and I'll give you some advice. Even if you're not comfortable talking to your friends or your wife, go and get one of those mental health apps. That's what I've got. That's what I use. Okay. Once a week, I go talk to a professional and I dump all my shit on them and they give me some advice and I apply it to my life. And it's been nothing but positive for me. And it's better than being an angry asshole. So, choice is yours. So that would be my advice. And obviously Laura's as well. From a spiritual point of view, this is a man talking to a man, bro. Okay. The most,
well,
the
we
number
have
one,
been really programmed to not have honest conversations
right?
in this lifetime.
Yeah, we have.
And we are not allowed to agree to disagree in many points in time too. We can't have differences of opinions because that would be wrong. So we're not robots, guys. We are individuals. And, you know, and this man that, you know, the wife that brought up her husband and stuff, it could be a myriad of things. And try and see what works for you, right? It's a tough place to be, but no matter how dark or horrible the situations are, when we get to the other side of it, we can see the silver linings of everything that we've learned along the way. And when we do that, that is true power.
Yeah, I agree. And Listen, Laura, thank you so much for being here. Your links are in the description.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone at home. Thank you to the mod. Thank you to the Sean Atwood channel. And I will see you all tomorrow night. I'm on with a former first responder who witnessed the horrors of child trafficking and human trafficking, lost his mind a little bit, lost his whole family, went into like a tormented spiral from what he'd seen, wrote a book, picked his life up, and he's coming to tell us all about it. We're also on tomorrow night with Beverly Rhodes and myself starting a new series. So see you all then. Thank you all for being here. And again, thank you to Laura, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.